Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's call with LNI Secretary Jerry Oleksiak and UC Benefits Policy Director Susan Dickinson. I'm Teresa Elliott, Deputy Communications Director for LNI. Please submit your questions by clicking the chat icon, which is the blue thought bubble located at the bottom of your screen. Please include your name and media outlet, followed by your question. In the interest of time, you'll be limited to one question, but time permitting, we'll open up the call for a second round of questions. You may submit any follow-up questions to us at dlipress@pa.gov, and we'll address them after the call. For your awareness, this call is being recorded. If you do not consent to being recorded, please hang up now. Following the call, a link to the recording will be provided to the media outlets that participated today. We'll get started with comments from Secretary Jerry Oleksiak. Secretary?
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you to all of you who are joining us this afternoon. We appreciate your involvement in this, and we hope we provide information that's useful for you and the claimants that we serve. Some updates on the numbers. Since March 15th, we've now paid more than $28 billion, $28 billion with a B, in benefits to our fellow citizens. $11 billion from regular unemployment, $13.5 billion from the federal pandemic unemployment compensation program, which is the extra $600 per week, and we'll be talking more about that. $3.7 billion to the pandemic unemployment assistance claimants, $170 million through the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation program, which is the federal extended benefits program, and $4.1 million through Pennsylvania's extended benefits program. The latest stat we can give you, 92% of eligible claimants who filed for benefits between March 15th and June 20th have received payments as of today. The remaining 8% are claims that need to be reviewed manually, were not automatically approved for various reasons, and are under review by our staff. And that staff is growing. Our UC employees have worked more than 203,000 total overtime hours since March 15th, 203,000. That includes the service center and other areas supporting unemployment compensation. In the service center itself, staffing levels have increased by 106%. We've gone from about 775 employees to close to 1,600. And last week, we were able to respond to more than 46,200 emails. So we are making steady, consistent progress. We did have an issue last week with the PUA system. There were overpayments to a very small percentage of PUA claimants. 2% of the claimants incorrectly received 2 payments instead of just 1. The outside vendor who built the system and maintains it, working with our IT staff and program staff, have corrected the issue. And we will be reaching out directly to the impacted claimants this week to provide them with more information on the situation and any appropriate actions that they may need to take. And we are still dealing with the issue of fraud around the PUA system, and we take this very seriously. We continue to make improvements to the system, working closely with our state and federal partners on the ongoing criminal investigation into the national scam. Again, this is not a issue just simply related to Pennsylvania. This is a national scam, and none of our systems were damaged or broken into in the course of that. These are identities that have been stolen previously. We're continuing to see it happening, and there are some red flags that we want to remind people to be watchful for. If you receive a confirmation letter or other correspondence from the Pennsylvania Office of Unemployment about an unemployment claim that you did not file, obviously that indicates that there is potential identity theft. If you've received a check or U.S. Bank debit card with unemployment funds without previously applying for benefits, that would be an indication. And for employers, if you're receiving claims information regarding any of your workers who were not unemployed, that would be an indication as well. Many people are unaware still that their identities were previously stolen until they receive correspondence about a claim or a bank rely card with benefits that they have not applied for. So we want to thank all of those who have received these and have done the right thing. They have turned them in. We would encourage everyone to visit www.uc.pa.gov/fraud. That's uc.pa.gov/fraud to learn more about this situation and to get instructions for what to do if you are involved. And there are important tips in general that people can follow to protect their information. Also, throughout the pandemic, through April 2021, credit reports are available from the annualcreditreport.com, annualcreditreport.com. So you can check your credit rating for free on that site. A reminder, as we've been saying for the past several of these conversations, the FPUC program, the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Program, which is the extra $600 that all unemployment recipients receive each week, top of their regular benefits, is ending this week, the end of this week. The federal government funds this program, and they're ending the payments. The week ending July 25th, 2020, will be the last $600 payment the claimants will receive. If anyone is still waiting on payments for any claim weeks from April 4th through July 25th, you will be made whole and you will receive those benefits. As we've said in previous calls, with this program ending, we want to remind you that there are other resources available through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And we would encourage you to visit the Department of Human Services page, www.compass.state.pa.us, compass.state.pa.us. And there's a range of benefits and programs that are available through the Department of Human Services. Most of them are the traditional programs available through that agency, and there are some that are specifically related to COVID-19. You can also visit the Insurance Department, insurance.pa.gov, to learn more about options for health insurance, and also pa.gov, the government website, state government website, where there's information on mental health resources, financial help, mortgage and rent information, food assistance, driver service updates, a whole range of things that are available. Also be aware that the Pennsylvania CareerLink offices are opening virtually across the state, and we would encourage everyone to take advantage of the free services offered by the CareerLinks. Whether it's learning new skills to find a better job, or you're out of work and looking for a job, CareerLinks can help. They have increased their virtual services and are offering limited in-person appointments for job seekers and employers, and that varies around the state. These virtual services include adult education classes, career counseling, on-the-job training programs, resume assistance, virtual workshops, job search assistance, and other employer services as well. We would encourage you to visit PA CareerLink, it's one word, PA CareerLink.pa.gov, PA-CareerLink.pa.gov to learn more. And another reminder that we continue our virtual town halls for the public. We will be holding our 9th this Thursday at 1 p.m. And people can access this live stream through access.live/PA-labor, access.live/PA-labor. And people can also call in 833-380-0719. That's 833-380-0719. And because of the nature of the personal information, we won't be able to talk about specific claims or specific issues with those claims, but we can provide a lot of information that will help claimants to navigate the system. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan for some updates, and then we'll be happy to take your questions. Susan?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I just want to talk today about reopening unemployment claims, just because it may be a time soon when individuals may be, they may have opened a claim at the beginning of the pandemic. They went back to work now, but maybe now, they might have less business happening, or may have to reopen their claim either now or in the fall. So we did post on our website, www.uc.pa.gov. We did post some instructions and information for individuals who are reopening a claim. It's easiest to just go to our search function and put in reopen a claim, and the page will be at the top of the list. So some of the things that it's important to note for individuals reopening a claim, even though the actual application on our website that they're going to complete looks exactly the same as the initial application, there's actually a different outcome, different expectation at the end of that. So if a person does file via internet, they'll be using the same PIN that they would use, to file a regular claim or file biweekly. The payments will be made the same way, whether that's direct deposit or a UC debit card that they requested. So payments are going to go out the same way they did before. They should reopen the claim the first day that they're actually unemployed, either fully or partially. So what individuals don't want to do is reopen it too early. That's a common mistake that we see. So someone is told on a Friday, oh, next week you're not going to be working as many hours, or you're going to be laid off. And if they go in and file a claim right away, that's too early. They have to wait for the week in which they're actually unemployed. So they would want to wait for their first actual day off, or a day of reduced hours. And then that would be when to go in and file that reopen. And it's the same concept for opening a new claim as well. You don't want to file too early. You want to file in the week in which you're actually first unemployed. We do remind individuals to reopen claims just one time. Don't try to reopen multiple times and think it'll make the process faster. It actually delays things. In the pandemic, we saw one gentleman reopen his claim 80 times. What happens is when you file another application for the same thing, we then have to compare those applications and see if there's differing information and then reconcile the information. So every time someone enters an address for their employer or enters, any other information about their employment history or their situation now, we have to compare all those different versions of their application and find out what the actual answer is for the one single application that we have to interface for them. So it's very important for individuals to just file one reopen. Otherwise, it's going to really delay their claim the more times that they try to reopen it. One of the reasons why individuals probably try to file multiple reopens is because they may expect to be able to file biweekly claims right away, and that's not always the case. To begin with, the reopen process is manual on the back end. So even though you're doing it online, a staff member does have to look at it when it comes through, and they have to process the reopen on your claim for you. So depending on volume, this means that it may not happen the week in which you reopen your claim. For example, if you do reopen it on a Thursday or a Friday, there's a chance we probably won't get to it until the next week because the weekend is right there. So just make sure that when someone does reopen a claim, we have a note on our website to just try filing biweekly. Just try logging in each day just to see when it is, and eventually you will be able to file for your weeks. The system will offer them for you. There's no way to know on the back end, when it's actually processed. So the best way is just to try logging in once a day. It's for anyone who is using our system. The login is a quick process. Just log in and see if weeks are available for filing, and then you'll know. Because since this is a reopen claim, there is no paperwork that goes along with it because you already received all the paperwork when you opened your claim originally. So there's no financial determination. There's no new mailings about debit cards, no other new mailings like that because they were all sent the first time the claim was opened. So that is, one main difference between having a new claim and reopening a claim. And so with that, that's the only reminder, and I will open it up for questions.
Thank you very much for the information, Susan. Okay, let me try that again. All right, we seem to be having some audio issues here, so let me try to adjust my microphone. I think that's a little bit better. Thank you very much for your patience, everyone. Okay, so we're going to take our first question today from the Philadelphia Inquirer's Christian Hetrick. Has Secretary Oleksiak seen Congressman Dwight Evans' letter this month about delays in processing unemployment claims? If so, what do you think of his suggestions to utilize the National Guard, hire students as temporary workers, or allow other elected officials to check on the status of constituents' applications?
Yes, I have seen Congressman Evans' letter and did respond to it. That response went out, I think, the end of last week. And I am aware of his suggestion. We did discuss it seriously. We talked with the governor's office, with Secretary Marcus Brown from the Department of Homeland Security, and talked about the pros and cons of it. And we decided at this point that that was not a viable option for the department. Primarily because we have taken on, as we've said before, we've doubled our number of staff, and there's a lot of training and support that they need right now that we would not be able to provide the appropriate level of support to any Guard that would come in. The National Guard is an outstanding organization that does a lot of wonderful things, but they would still need the same training as anyone else would related to the unemployment compensation system, which is, I'm sure you've learned as we've gone through this, is a very complicated system. So we did respond to Secretary Evans on that, and also the idea of having students or legislators have access to the system. There are a lot of legal concerns that I couldn't cite right now, but they were cited in the response to Congressman Evans that prevent that from happening. Federal laws and regulations that get in the way, access to personally identifiable information. So there are some specific reasons that we are unable to do that. We can cite the chapter and verse of that for you after the call.
Next, Erie News Now's Isaac Pettit asks, we've been hearing from some claimants who have used some apps and websites claiming to help with unemployment and are then seeing a claim in their name, but with different banking information. Are you seeing this? And if so, are there specific apps or services that you have heard of that claimants have had trouble with?
Susan, yeah, well, this is, if that's happening, they are most likely victims of fraud. Let Susan talk more about any specifics she may have.
Yes, the only website that anyone should be using is our website that ends in pa.gov. If it's any other website, an individual should not be filing a claim. They either have to have, they have to access it from pa.gov or it has to be a pa.gov. What I mean by that is our regular UC system is on the pa.gov platform. Our PUA system, which we have with a third-party vendor, is on a different platform. It won't be pa.gov, but you can access it through our pa.gov website. So if they're not visiting pa.gov to get to where they need to file a claim, then they should not be using it. That is a fraudulent website.
Hey, Nicole Brambola from Public Source asks, what were the overtime and staffing numbers again? And also, how has the increased overtime and staffing impacted L&I's budget?
The overtime number is about 203,000 total overtime hours since March 15th. And we've increased our staff. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it's 106% increase. I know it was 775 and it's close to 1,600 right now. A lot of that is being funded through federal dollars through the CARES Act. Maybe all of it. I'd have to check for sure. There may be some parts of it. Susan's shaking her head. Yes, it is. Yeah. So that as part of the CARES Act, those you could use those dollars to provide that kind of service to the system. So it is not directly impacting L&I's budget. Any figures related to how much we've spent on that, we would have to get to.
Laura Benshaw from WHYY, as well as John Finnerty from CNHI, ask, how many people have received the FPUC, the extra $600 a week in Pennsylvania, since the program was created, that will be losing that benefit July 25th?
Susan, do you have that? I don't have that stat in front of me. We do have that available.
Well, the stat that we have is number of weeks filed. It doesn't necessarily correlate to individuals. However, it would be any individual with a claim who filed for at least a week. So we may have individuals, especially on UC, who may have opened a claim but didn't file for any weeks. Maybe they thought they'd be unemployed, but then their employer needed them. That doesn't happen often, but it does happen. But pretty much everyone is eligible who's filing for regular UC unless they've worked too much in a week. or unless they have a penalty week, but those with a penalty week can file for PUA. So altogether between UC and PUA, we have about 3.3 million claims right now. So I would say probably the majority of those did at least receive one FPUC payment, as long as they did file for a week and get a payment.
And WHYY's follow-up to that question is, what is your message to people who are afraid of losing those payments if Congress chooses not to renew it?
Well,
And that's for the FPUC program. Sorry, go ahead, Secretary.
That's fine. Thanks, Teresa. We have let our legislative delegation in Washington know that we are supportive of extending those benefits. We think they are a very important means of support for people in very difficult times. So we are encouraging, I would encourage everyone to contact, who supports this, to contact their legislators and let them know that. We know there is a lot of talk in Washington about doing it, whether it gets done, when it gets done, whether it's $600, whether it's a variation of that, we have no idea. And we know it's going to be difficult for people. Fortunately, that's a decision that is out of our hands. That's why we have been talking over the past several weeks about other resources that are available through the Department of Human Services, through the Insurance Department, and on the VA.gov website to help people find their way through these very difficult times. But we are certainly hopeful that the federal government will extend those benefits.
Zach Hoops from the Carlisle Sentinel asks, do you foresee any problems with stopping and then restarting the FPUC program if Congress decides to renew it after the July 25th end date?
I'll speak to it a little bit, and then Susan can talk to it in more detail. But if it is the same way that it is now, obviously that would be easier for us than if we have to, if there's any change in how much is distributed or how they're distributed or when they're distributed. So I'll let Susan pick it up from there.
Sure, and you're right. If it's similar to what it is now, or the same as what it is now, it is easier. Of course, making retroactive payments always is a little bit trickier than just being able to keep paying through. We were lucky in the beginning of FPUC that our IT staff had it ready to go on time, and we didn't have to make any retroactive payments. So, if we do, it's not the end of the world. We'll, be able to do that. It's just an extra step. Of course, the trickier part is if there are changes. And of course, I've heard in the news all sorts of different proposals and ways that they were thinking of changing it. Sometimes it's just a flat amount. Maybe they were going to change the amount. Sometimes they make it graduated. It depends on what they do. It's just a matter of having enough time to program it and test it and then put it in production. So of course, the sooner that the federal government takes action, the better.
Michaela Drapak from ABC 27 asks, are you planning to hire more employees beyond the 1,600 we currently have? And what is your plan to get everyone who's applied for benefits since the start of the pandemic sorted out?
We're always looking for more opportunities to bring in more people. One of the things that we have to be mindful of is that if we hire people, then and they become employees of the Commonwealth, when this does sort itself out and when the pandemic, the crisis is past, then we will be staffed for a situation that doesn't exist any longer. That's one of the reasons we were able to get a waiver from the federal government to bring in outside vendors who have experience with this to help us respond to the emails and phone calls. We are focusing our priority on the oldest claims that we have and working our way forward from that. So we are obviously considering other options. We talk about it regularly and regular updates on how we're doing. That 90% number is now 92%. So we are making steady progress. And as we've said all along, we're very proud of the work that we're doing in that $28 billion in benefits, but we're not satisfied. So we are always looking for ways to improve that. Susan,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Susan, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I just, I'll add, it always helps. I know, individuals who are still waiting for a determination or waiting for a payment, are always really anxious to get that. And I say it all the time, and I sound like a broken record, but I really encourage everyone to read about unemployment compensation, read their benefits, read their rights, read their responsibilities on our website or in the handbook that we mail to them for those people who don't use the internet. Because there is a lot. I wouldn't mention this if it were rare. It's actually not rare that we're finding individuals who may just misunderstand the process, or they may not realize that just because they're financially eligible doesn't mean that they are eligible for benefits. There's a lot of other factors when it comes to unemployment compensation. There's weeks where people are working part-time, but even though it's part-time, they still earn too much in order to receive a benefit, and they're not eligible for a benefit for that week. So it really is an education. It's a complicated program. That's another broken record thing I say all the time. It's a complicated program. So it will help if individuals, refer to our website and kind of have a sense of what might be going on with their claim.
Now, WTAE's Paul Van Alstall asks, approximately how many people are in the 8% whose claims are pending, and how many of them would potentially be eligible for the $600 a week?
I don't have an exact number, Susan. Do you have that?
I want to say it was around 90,000, and keep in mind that those are of people who are financially eligible. And it includes those, so the 92% are those who have received a payment or a denial. So they've been processed, not necessarily paid, but processed. So we've handled their claim. If they haven't been paid and they're denied benefits, we've sent them a determination saying that they are denied and explaining why. So the other 8% is about 90,000. And, those, if they are in fact eligible, they would receive the $600 a week for, any weeks from April 4th through July 25th. However, those individuals, are the ones who are still unprocessed because we're making a determination of eligibility. So it's also very likely that they might not be eligible for benefits, in which case they'll receive a determination from us explaining that they're not eligible and explaining why.
WPXI's Ashley Bishop asks, if people have applied for UC at the beginning of the pandemic and still have not gotten paid or are having claim issues, and they still haven't heard from your office, but sent in an email and haven't heard anything, what do you recommend?
The UC service centers had actually received a list of all the claims that were old, like that March and April, that were unprocessed, and did start going through them. Although a lot of them simply hadn't filed for weeks. That was something I'd mentioned earlier. Not everyone files for weeks. So we take action on a claim if someone has filed for weeks. So they are, proactively going in and looking at those. If they sent an email, that is a very good thing. That gets someone's place in line, and then we're sure to, as soon as we get to that email, to be able to take care of that. We've had, as the secretary mentioned, a lot more staff helping us all the time. So we are getting through a lot more emails. We're answering more phone calls. It's actually going pretty well, getting extra help. At the end of last week, we pretty much doubled the amount of staff we have answering our PUA telephone line. So that helps with those issues as well. That's a separate email account, but even so, still a very busy email account. So, if the individual is still waiting to hear from us, it's likely that we'll be issuing a determination soon. Or we'll be getting to their email because we do have the extra help and we are getting through things faster.
Joe DeSteel from KDKA Radio asks, how many people received double PUA payments and what was that dollar amount?
It's about 30,000 people that received them, just about 2% of our claimants. And the dollar amount is about $280 million. I think it's important to remember that these are payments that they would have been eligible for anyway. This is an advance. You think of it that way, as an advance. So we will be contacting those people to let them know what process will be used to straighten that out. They're the numbers that we have right now.
Okay, we are about to head into our second round of questions, so I encourage anyone that has any additional follow-ups to please submit them now. Joe Napsher from the Tribune Review asks, is the department prepared to process claims for the federal pandemic unemployment compensation if the program is extended?
Yes, we are. And as we said before, depending on the nature of that program, If it's passed exactly as it was and we continue the $600, it will be much easier for our staff to continue as it was. If there are changes that need to be made based on changes in the law or the rules and regulations around that law, then it will require some adjustment on the part of our system. And we really have no way to know what that's going to be until we know if and when those benefits will continue.
Lauren Rosenblatt from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette asks, can you repeat how much money L&I has paid to claimants through FPUC since March 15th?
Sure, that's $13.5 billion, give or take, and we can give you an exact number as of today when we're done, but it's $13.5 billion since March 15th.
Okay, Kristen Hattrick from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Are any unemployment claims that were filed back in March or April still pending?
Yes, that's that 8% that we talked about. Susan, I don't know if you want to talk any further on that.
Yeah, and well, the 8% that goes into May. I want to say that goes into the second week in June. The last time that stat was run. But there aren't a lot, but there are some, and that's what, the service centers now have that list that they're going through to find those individuals and make sure that those are addressed. And in a lot of cases, it was like, I know we had one where there were 11 weeks pending, and sure enough, it was a separation question. So you have to get the information from the claimant, you have to get the information from the employer, you have to go back and forth. 11 weeks is a long time, and under normal circumstances, usually 8 weeks is about the max. So 11 weeks is a little longer than our normal circumstances. So ones like that are the ones that the service centers are tackling first to try to get those taken care of, which is also helpful because in more recent times, the number of incoming claims has been lower than it was clearly back in March. So it makes it easier then to keep up with the current work that's going in.
And Susan, just to add on to what you said, it's through June 20th. So from March 15th to June 20th, 92% of eligible claimants have been paid. So that extends beyond March and April through May and mid-June.
WTAE's Paul Van Alstall asks, what is the department doing to crack down on fraud being committed by jail or prison inmates?
Well, again, we won't speak about any specifics, but we are aware of the situation you've mentioned, and we are working with the Department of Corrections and the Attorney General's office, the Inspector General's office, the Federal Department of Labor, Postal Service. We are very involved in cracking down on fraud everywhere we're finding it. And again, this is a national issue. It's taken up a lot of time and resources on our part. It has obviously slowed down some payments to some of our PUA people because some claims are flagged that we have to review. But we are aware of that situation and are working to correct it.
And I'll also add that specifically for jail or prison inmates, we do have a cross match that Pennsylvania's probably had for the last 10 years or so. For the inmates, and we do this cross match. We have a daily one, and then we also have a monthly one for the state level. So that one, is set up with our regular UC claim. So in addition to that, anytime someone would file a fraud report on our website in order to report any fraud that they know of happening or suspect of happening, we act on those as well, and if there is fraud occurring, we can address it.
Our final question for this afternoon comes from Isaac at Erie News Now. Besides the extra PUA payments, are there other overpayments that you're aware of? Some claimants told us last week that they've received deposits of nearly $7,000.
Yes, I'm not totally sure what overpayments you have in mind, but in general, on the PUA program, there will be overpayments depending on someone's eligibility. So if they received payments for weeks they shouldn't have received, maybe they weren't unemployed those weeks, or one source of overpayments that we are going to see coming up soon, because we're doing those quarter change checks, is we're finding a lot of people who should have qualified for regular UC and not PUA Will they all be overpaid? Not necessarily. Some of them may qualify for regular UC on the surface because they have enough wages in their base year, but they're actually not going to qualify in the end because they're self-employed. There's a lot that goes into eligibility review. So when we do determine someone's on the wrong program, or they were paid for weeks where they weren't otherwise eligible, those would all result in an overpayment. And the type of overpayment will depend on the circumstances.
And it looks like we have one additional question that was slipped in here. So Joe Nafsha from the Tribune Review asked, Susan said that there have been 92% of claimants have been paid or denied their claims, but Jerry said 92% have been paid. What is the correct number?
I can tell you. Go ahead, Susan.
Go ahead. I was going to say the 92% are resolved. So that's paid. I mean, we might just say paid, talking quickly, but what we mean by that is they've been resolved. So either they've been paid if payment was due, or they've been denied and payment was not due. So 92% has been resolved, and the 8% are the unresolved that we're still working on either denying or paying.
Thank you, Susan.
Sure.
Okay, so Susan or Secretary Oleksiak, do either of you have any additional information or final thoughts for our participants today that you'd like to share?
Thank you again for being a part of this. We appreciate you, the questions you ask. We appreciate the information you share with your readers and listeners. And we hope that you find these as helpful and as valuable as we do. So thank you very much.
And it almost goes without saying, but remember that it is the last payable week of FPUC. We'll say it till everyone's tired of hearing of it, because I want to make sure that claimants understand that it is going to stop. Of course, we are waiting for federal action to see if they continue it. But of course, in the absence of any action, by the end of next week or so, individuals, I guess 2 weeks from now, individuals will notice that payment stops. So I want to make sure everyone is aware of that. We have the information up on our website and every possible place. So the $600 is coming to an end as of the end of this week.
And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Please email our communications office at dlipress@pa.gov with any additional questions. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay well.
Thank you.